your position on that. Secondly, the Kenya Kwanza government, I believe, they talked about guaranteed minimum returns. And I've seen you have worked with the Kilimo Biashara as well. What would be your take on guaranteed minimum returns for all our products? Lastly, there is a bill I'm co-sponsoring, the livestock theft bill, which is in Parliament. Apparently, the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock has got what is coming up, but instead of them bringing it to Parliament, they say that has to stop before we bring ours. So if you do get confirmed, would you be willing even to be assisted by members of Parliament bringing bills and not stopping bills because the ministry is going to bring? When it is going to bring, we do not know. So those are the few things I would want you to answer.
Go ahead, Dr. Karanja.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Mary, the issue about livestock and climate change. Climate change is a definite threat to agriculture and many other sectors, including energy and others. And it has to be dealt with. Measures have to be taken. And in particular, when you go to livestock, especially where it is practiced in the arid and semi-arid areas, that is where climate change is becoming a big issue due to the persistent droughts. And we have to invest in mitigation and adaptation measures in those areas. For instance, if you go to the northeast counties, Isiolo, Mwajiam, and others, you realize that over time, the pastoralists have started to realize that pasture conservation is one of the areas which they can invest in. They used to graze and then go. But through interventions, through various programs, you can now see hay being sold in those areas. So some of these mitigation measures are going to be there, especially to change their lifestyle, so that they adopt measures like pasture conservation. And if approved, I am going to promote programs which you do the adaptation especially for livestock sector. For crops, it's also the same. We need measures which varieties which are resistant or drought tolerant, varieties which are higher temperature, can withstand higher temperatures. So that, as the docket of research is within my mandate, if approved, I will also emphasize on that. We have also to take, for instance, the Kenya Kwanza agenda of planting trees. That is one area where we need to emphasize, because trees, agroforestry and others, is one of the measures which we can be able to mitigate the effects of the climate change. Then in agriculture, I'll also be working closely, if I'm approved, with my counterparts in irrigation. Our agriculture is rain-fed. It is prone to the vagaries of the weather. So we need to invest where we can, with resources allowing. We need to invest in irrigation so that we expand the area under irrigation. Small-scale irrigation programs, which can be able to support farmers so that they are not caught by this the issue about climate change. Then I think insurance. At the final end of the day, because this is a risk, we need to emphasize both crop and livestock insurance so that farmers are able to be compensated whenever there is an occurrence of that calamity which occurs. Issue about the youth. I indicated earlier that, yes, I'm quite aware of this particular challenge of jobless youth in the country, in the rural areas and everywhere else. And if I'm approved, my undertaking is that, whatever we are doing in all the value chains, the issue about the youth, women, PWDs, people living with disabilities, will be taken care of. not just taken care of, but we will go out of our way to make sure that and monitor clearly that we are taking care of the youth, the women, and people with disability. Honorable Dawood, the coffee industry, as you have rightfully indicated, I started my career there as an economist. I have also served in the task force and other. Yes, I know there are issues, very major issues in the coffee industry, including legislative one, the bill, the policy, which are still pending. This will be low-hanging fruits. I will be able to handle them if I'm approved, so that we move forward. New varieties and theft. I work with collaboration with, especially for theft, I work with the collaboration with the interior, so that we are able to see how best we can handle the coffee thefts. Because the coffee thefts are usually promoted and kind of gotten mainly from maybe insider jobs or people who have licenses who can be able to dispose of the coffee. Because you cannot buy coffee. Where do you take it? It has to be that you have a license, you can be able to dispose. So it is something which, with working together with the Ministry of Interior, we will be able to handle. So I will approach it from the policy point of view, having the policy, and I'm also aware that there is a coffee bill which is before Parliament or Senate. I'm here to take the position very well. So I'll go ahead and do whatever it takes to make sure that that is done. Minimum guaranteed returns for farmers. This is the campaign and Kenya Kwanza in the plan. It needs to be looked into because it involves a lot of, from an economic point of view, it involves a lot of resources. In terms of if you want to guarantee the coffee, tea, you want to guarantee maize, you want. So this one, I would say that if I am approved, I will set up the necessary structures to make sure that I get good professional advice on this particular issue and the best way to go forward. But I know it is very important to our farmers. It was in the plan, the Kenya Kwanza plan, so we have to move forward, but cautiously so that we are not, given our financial situation, that we don't overcommit. The livestock and the bills, I would like to handle it from where you, Honorable Dawood, you said, if I'm approved as a cabinet secretary, working with the National Assembly and Senate and members of the honorable members, whenever a bill, you don't have to oppose a bill because it is coming from another quarter. If it is something which is good, it is bringing something of value on the table, the best approach will be you look and you consult and you do the consultation so that you agree on a common position. You improve on what you have. If it is a bill brought by a private member's motion, you see what is bringing on the table. If the ministry has something else to add, you add. So it is a collaborative effort. I would approach it that way.
Ferdinand.
Thank you very much. Dr. Karanja, you have promised, and please go by that promise, that if you are actually approved by this House, then of course you're going to put some workable and various interventions in the system to be able to move forward as a sector, agricultural sector. One, I want to ask you, what are you going to do? We have failed. There are some projects you actually failed. Kalana Gulalu is one of them that this House or that of the Parliament actually put in a lot of efforts, but it is failed. I want you to tell me what you are going to do. Because you are saying the moment we approve you, you're going to get some of the things that have failed. Two, out here, and I think it's a common knowledge, there's a lot of land fragmentation, the cutting land, reducing the workable land. Agricultural land is actually being subdivided. I'm afraid 20 years to come, maybe you and I won't be there. 20 years to come, there will be no land for cultivation in this country. And I think I had a chance to go to some of the places like Denmark, where land is actually put aside. So what are you going to do about that to be able to at least stop this fragmentation of the land, subdividing? Of course, if I have like 4 children, each one of them must have a piece of land. Lastly and not least, the most important thing is that agriculture. You have promised, and I hope you will live up to your promise. There's irrigation. Irrigation in this country, I don't know who did this, is misplaced. It's in blue economy. What do you irrigate in blue economy? Blue economy is water. Are you going to have an effort to bring it to agriculture? Because irrigation is actually supposed to be irrigating the products, crops, but not the blue economy. Are you going to, again, given by your background, bring it back to agriculture? I think the others, insurance, you have talked about insurance. I don't want to repeat it, but I think the best you do is that there's a lot of crop failures.
Honorable Ferdinand, irrigation is not in blue economy.
Blue economy?
It's in water.
Water, but water is a blue economy.
No, they're different.
But we want to bring it.
There is a Minister of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime. Yes.
No, I
Then you have
think
water, irrigation, and sanitation.
let's get Dr. to see your view, because irrigation was in agriculture. It was moved from agriculture. So that's what I'm saying.
To grab it back.
Yeah, I want it back. I want to. It has to come back, because what do you irrigate in water? No, of course he can, through him, he can bring a motion, whatever it is, if he is approved, yeah, to bring it to agriculture, because what you know, it is misplaced. Thank you.
Murugara?
Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Dr. Karanja, there is a lot of theory in agriculture, especially to encourage youngsters to study agriculture and economics, with such catchphrases like agriculture is the backbone of the economy of the country. That is, in agriculture and in economics, it's the biggest employer and should be sustained, etc., etc. When you look at the level of unemployment in the country today, why would it be at such high level if it were the greatest employer? It means the policies regarding agriculture vis-a-vis the young people we are educating do not match. Number two, it means the youngsters do not take agriculture to be any form of gainful employment. It's dirty, it doesn't have good income, and all that. What policies would you put in place to ensure that we have a mindset change to the youngsters to know that agriculture can actually be that employer which is income generating? And if we were to do this, then the next question is, we as a country presided over the killing of some of our best cash crops in the country, away from coffee and tea, including cotton. Cotton was doing very well in arid and semi-arid areas. But we elected to have Mutumba coming in, as a result of which cotton almost got dissipated. Sunflower, another cash crop, which was doing very well in those areas. We watched as we brought in edible oil from other countries, and the crop went down. What policies would you put in place to ensure that cotton, sunflower are revived as our cash crops, which would actually reverse the trend of importation of either very expensive clothes from Turkey, China and everywhere else, or the second-hand clothes which are flocking in from all over the world, and also edible oils that are coming from the Asian countries, while actually we can sustain that ourselves. And not lastly, we have the other food cash crops, which we grow. The crops are food, but basically, if you check their mode of production, they are cash crops. And I'll give you examples. One of them is gadam sorghum, which is supposed to be consumed by the brewers. It's also a food crop. Another one is the mang beans, the dengu in eastern Kenya. It's supposed to be a food crop, but it is produced as a cash crop by the farmers. The cartels we were talking about are now able to go around it, import those crops from the neighboring countries, as a result of which the prices become extremely miserable and to some extent throw away. What policies would you put in place to ensure that those crops are sustained in the country and their prices are improved so that farmers are encouraged to continually grow these crops for economic purposes? Finally, livestock. Livestock is supposed to be one of the most lucrative agricultural endeavors or enterprises we undertake, including export. But it surprises us that even the quotas we are given, leave alone Europe, which refuses to accept our beef on the basis that, as the Deputy Speaker put, we use drugs to treat these animals, which drugs are banned in their countries. So when they do their tests, they say this meat does not qualify for our consumption. But the Asian countries are more than not able to meet our quotas, when actually even overdoing it because of the areas that are arid and semi-arid. What policies would you put in place to ensure that livestock is also sustained along those lines?
Yes, Dr. Karanja, that's quite a mouthful.
Thank you, Mr.
Can you
Speaker.
respond to all those very important issues from
Yes.
Ferdinand to Morugara?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. From Ferdinand, thank you, Ferdinand, for your Honorable Ferdinand, for your question on the field projects. The Garana Kuraru, I know this has been in the works, arms and projects. And one of the areas where you do is to do an evaluation, clear evaluation with economic analysis. If it is not working, it is not working. If it is working, then you can see what are the lessons learned and you go ahead. So I would when away the baby with the bathwater is to do a candid evaluation of that program, of that project. If it is not working, then we get advisory, we move away, and we see how the best to get out or to continue. So and that is just an example of Guraru Kuraru. We will do for others, which we feel that they are not delivering, they are not getting value for money. Subdivision of land. I know this is beyond agriculture alone, because yes, agriculture is the biggest user of land in the country. And if I am approved, what I will do is I will engage the sector of land, because we are supposed to have a land use policy, clear land use policy, which delineates areas where you can do agriculture, areas where you can do housing, areas where you can do other things, so that we are able to delineate those areas. So this is a collaborative effort with the sector of land, because I'm sure, and honorable members are aware, we are losing a sizable number, a sizable, a sizable proportion of agricultural land to real estate in Kiambu and other areas, and this are causing a lot of concern. Even in other counties, we are doing the same. So it is an area where I engage the sector of lands to come up with clearly with. I know there is a land use policy, but we need to revisit it and see how we can implement it. Irrigation, as it has been indicated, this is in the water sector, and this, I'm sure, is an issue which our appointing authority will cease to that, and I don't want to comment more than that. Honorable Murungaru, thank you for your question.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Yes, Ferdinand.
Daktari, you actually are very knowledgeable from what you have said. don't tell us, don't throw that this the question of irrigation is it's something that you go to tell this committee what you're going to do. You know, we upset and
you do it, especially the small one, not the big dams which you have hydros in them. The irrigation we do for small scale is agriculture actually, most of it. And logically it is supposed to be in agriculture so that you manage, because even the technical management of the irrigation scheme, yeah, it is agriculture. The water part is it's just making sure that the water is there. I would love to have irrigation as one of the dockets, but definitely I need to, thank you for your questions. The issue about the youth and agriculture, yes, it is quite something which, because you realize that was done by one of the institutes, indicated that, for instance, the average age of a coffee farmer is 62 years. So very aged people. And the issue is about the youth might not want to go into production per se. They might not want to go to production, but what they are interested in is issues to do with the value chain, along the value chain. For instance, in agro-processing, in making sure that, for instance, if there is milk, they add value, they can make yogurt, they can do the ghee. So, as indicated earlier, some of the key value chains which has been highlighted and has been prioritized, we will try as much as possible to integrate the issue about the youth. There is also a program, I'm informed, if I come in, and I will try to scale it up, trying to inculcate, to teach youth about agriculture, right from the secondary schools and primary schools, so that they have the right mindset when they are coming up. Policies, edible oils and imports. As I indicated earlier, we are having a big issue about food imports. We are becoming a country of food imports. Edible oils. I was checking the statistics, and when you look at petroleum and other, edible oils is featuring very highly in terms of imports. So we need, and it's one of the priorities in the BETA, which has been prioritized, especially sunflower. So we will accelerate that program. If I am approved, we will accelerate that program to make sure that the farmers have the necessary planting materials for sunflower. They have the necessary planting materials for other edible oils, canola and others. And the challenge of also making sure that not only they have the planting materials, but also they have the technology to get the oil out of the sunflower. Because it's one thing to plant the sunflower, it's another thing to get the oil out of the sunflower. Cash crop, gadam, sorghum, dengu. Sustainability in the country. Yes, these are particularly good cash crops. Some of them are like dengu, gadam, sorghum. They are a bit drought tolerant, and they are grown in areas where, like Lower Eastern, the form of Lower Eastern, Upper Eastern, and other Kitui and other Machakos and others. They are good, and they are actually very helpful crop, because in this era of climate change, they are the ones which are going to be the ones which are going to help the farmers to adapt to some of this. And if necessary, if I'm approved, if there is any exports or any cartels which are trying to curtail this,